When Sara Evans pauses to talk about the moving music video for her new single Pride, her cool, collected manner falters and tears start to spring up in her eyes. The song is a scathing tribute to a woman's bravery and fortitude in the face of her partner's attempts to minimize her. Additionally, Evans saw it as a page torn from her journal written during a trying time in her marriage to Jay Barker. He has seen it numerous times with me. When visitors arrive, we display it to them, and my heart will always. Oh, I didn't realize I was going to weep. She pauses to gather herself and laughs nervously. People will hold me in high regard. Why do you think poorly of him? However, I am aware that he is experiencing humiliation. However, he's also showing courage by admitting that it's the truth. That's what I did. This kind of introspection is novel for Barker, but Evans, 53, shared on the first edition of her new podcast Diving in Deep with Sara Evans on Thursday that it was part of the reason she chose to retry their marriage after filing for divorce in August 2021. Their rocky separation even resulted in Barker's arrest in January 2022, when she was charged with felony assault with a deadly weapon after an altercation involving Evans, her daughter, and his automobile. Barker is 51 years old. Speaking to People for the first time since the arrest, however, the country music icon insists that her husband has turned around as a result of intensive individual and marital therapy. She is aware that not everyone will agree with her decision to make amends with Barker, but she hopes they will give it some thought. My biggest fear is that people won't understand the whole story and the whole picture and they'll judge me or be angry with me for staying with Jay, she says. More than anything, I just want them to realize that every marriage and every story is unique. The story of Evans started in 2008 when she married radio personality and former NFL player Barker on a Tennessee farm. Following a contentious and widely reported divorce from her former spouse Craig Shelsk, Evans' marriage marked a fresh start for herself, her daughter Audrey, 19, and son Avery, 24, who rapidly bonded with their new daddy Jay. However, things quickly became nasty behind closed doors. Evans claims that the foundation she was left with after a lifetime of pursuing her father's love and her tumultuous first marriage to Shelsk did not benefit her. Nevertheless, she remained silent and refrained from informing her close friends and family members about Barker's allegedly accusatory behavior, which she claims was caused by alcohol. All I'd ever known was men not paying me any attention. She claims that if Jay felt jealous, it would indicate that he was infatuated with me and that he loved me. It took me a very long time to tell people that I was and still am deeply in love with him. I was refusing to believe it. I reasoned that I could alter it. I am able to control his actions. All I can do is ensure that he never gets irritated. By 2017, however, Evans had become interested in toxic relationships and had begun to study books about them, which helped her realize that something was wrong in her own marriage. That's when she says, I started to realize that I don't deserve this, that I am in a toxic relationship. I shouldn't be afraid to express my opinions or follow my desires. Expert in the area of violence prevention and CEO of Heal Trafficking, Amanda Stelliano, notes that victims of domestic abuse often fail to recognize the warning signs immediately and that it's normal for them to hide the abuse from their loved ones in an effort to keep the peace and prevent embarrassing stigmas. She tells people that it's a pattern of behaviors that are really designed to gain power and control in the relationship. And because those tend to be more subtle in nature and are frequently masked by a ton of love, promises, and positive behaviors, they can be extremely difficult for someone to identify when they're going through it. Evans claims that she just gave up on her romance with Barker in the summer of 2020. According to court documents seen by People, the pair initially split up in April 2021. She filed for divorce in August of the same year, citing inappropriate behavior during their marriage. I simply raised my hands and declared, I give up. We have everything, so there's no reason we should be living this way. I'm sick of it. We're quite fortunate, she says. However, I was also devastated since I thought my hand had been coerced into doing it. I adore Jay, therefore I didn't want to do that. 90% of the 16 years that we have been married have been filled with great happiness. Following the filing of Evans' divorce, Barker returned to his hometown of Birmingham, Alabama, and the two led separate lives. They made an effort to communicate, but their conversations would almost always end in violence. Evans claims that lying to her kids about communicating with Barker during this time was the worst thing that I did. Her daughter Audrey tells People that when she eventually found out what her mother had gone through with Barker, it was a total shock. The night Evans refers to as rock bottom, January 17, 2022, marked the culmination of tensions. According to an arrest document, Barker purportedly tried to hit some unidentified individuals in a car as they were leaving a party at 1:30 a.m. by reversing his car at a high rate of speed, but missed. Barker intentionally attempted to hit them with his automobile, according to witnesses and other passengers in the car, who reported this to the police. After entering a best interest plea and reducing the charge from felony assault to misdemeanor reckless endangerment, he was placed on probation. Barker requested social media privacy shortly after, claiming that news headlines did not adequately capture the full context and complex fabric of our lives. Evans claims that even now, she is still confused by Barker's arrest since she doesn't think he was attempting to damage the vehicle she was riding in. The singer clarified on her podcast that she had been with her daughter and that, following a verbal dispute with Barker just before the event, her daughter had called the police. She claims, even now, I believe he was backing up to check if I was in the car with someone. It appeared like something completely different to my youngster. It was astonishing to me that my child had never seen Daddy that way. I just would encourage people not to just believe it, without him ever speaking about it, the woman says further. That, oh yeah, he tried to kill her with his truck, is something I never mentioned. That hyperbole bothers me because it's what occurs when too much is spoken without supporting evidence. I simply thought that since I never talked to the media, some of it ought to have been kept more confidential. I remained silent at all. After 2 or 3 months, Barker unexpectedly texted Evans, which ultimately resulted in their reconciliation. They quickly resumed their conversation after the text started, but not before establishing some new ground rules. Barker would, first and foremost, start therapy, both individually and with Evans. The celebrity adds the pair will see a therapist for the rest of our lives since she understands that their problems need professional help. Regaining the children's trust came next. Barker returned to the family home 3 or 4 months ago, and according to Evans, after 2 major talks, the daughter who was engaged in the event in January 2022 has reconciled with Barker. According to court documents seen by People, the divorce was formally dismissed in February 2023. Audrey claims that since then, she has noticed a significant shift in the guy who reared her. Audrey claims that it was a complete switch, like he altered his brain chemistry almost, when he returned into their lives. In the past, he would become agitated when something would happen, and then he would suddenly become quiet and glance around the room. He has now entirely changed the way he feels. When someone teases him, he laughs it off or says something like, "You're right," rather than becoming upset. Over the past year, I've witnessed little changes like that in how I view a man as a father figure. Evans also perceives change. She mentions Pride, the lead track from her upcoming album Unbroke, which will be released on June 7 and marks her first release of new music in 7 years. Evans claims that because the song's lyrics don't exactly present her boyfriend in a positive light, she volunteered to alter it so that, out of respect, she would sing it in the third person rather than the first. Barker reportedly objected to the idea, stating that she should sing the song exactly as it is, regardless of how it depicted him, since it was her tale to tell. Then there are his responses to less dramatic events, such as Evans's decision to take an impromptu trip to Mexico. She explains that Barker would have ordered her not to go before, but now he would just respond, "Okay." It seems to be 180 degrees. He is not and will never be flawless. I shall never attain perfection. We are in love, though. We're going to use every effort to maintain our unity and well-being, she declares. He treats me like a queen these days. If that weren't the case, I wouldn't be here. I would like that to be known. My divorce was filed. I meant it. I don't want anyone to believe that I'm downplaying issues related to abusive marriages, poisonous relationships, or addictions of any type. I'm not trying to minimize any of it. I'm merely expressing that, in my case, I made the decision to stick around, work hard, and establish ground rules. According to Styliano, there is hope for transformation and that survivors ultimately understand the gravity of their circumstances and what is best for them. She asserts that it is their responsibility to choose what is best for their children and themselves. According to her, people can change the way they behave if they own up to their abusive habits, accept responsibility for them, and actively look for help. The person who has caused harm must be held accountable for the harm they have caused while also acknowledging their humanity and any potential traumas they may have experienced. This path for development is essentially made possible by holding people accountable while still acknowledging their humanity. Evans is now concentrating on her future. Olivia, the daughter, made her engagement public in December. We could not have handpicked a better son-in-law, she says, and she's excited to share Unbroke, the book that will detail her harrowing return to Barker, with the world. This is my union with you. That is my predicament. My husband is a great man, but he made mistakes. I'm a wonderful person with flaws. It was our decision to recover and get well. I shouldn't be the deciding factor for anyone, she declares. This is really unsettling because, once more, people will be angry. However, I'm hoping that most people would believe me when I say that this is the best choice for me, as well as giving Jay the benefit of the doubt. Contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or at thehotline.org if you are a victim of domestic abuse. Every call is private and toll-free. The hotline is open in over 170 languages around the clock.